Continuing my special guide series where I take a deep dive into each perk category and rank the perks within on a scale of F to A based on their usefulness and viability, today we have Perception. Throughout the franchise, Perception has contributed to the player's VATS accuracy, gun skills, and enemy detection range. Before we start, I wanted to add a quick note. Perks contributing to the base damage of a weapon such as Commando or Archer will not be ranked. This is because if you are building around these weapon types, these perks are mandatory for the build optimization. So it does not make sense for me to rank them, as they're going to be on your build anyway. With that being said, let's move on to the rankings. The first perk on our list is Awareness. This perk has one rank requiring 2 points of investment. In return, it grants you the ability to see enemy resistances. This is a novelty perk that does not have much use beyond spicing up your UI and learning the resistances of enemies. This is something you will commit to memory given enough time, making this perk virtually useless. So for these reasons, I can give the Awareness perk a comfortable D tier ranking. Butcher's Bounty provides the player with an 80% chance to find an extra meat when you search an animal corpse. This perk can be handy when doing dailies or farming for meat that can provide substantial buffs, even more so for carnivore players. This gets a C tier ranking. The primary reason for this is that you simply would swap it in and out as needed, and it's not something that's going to be in your build 24/7. So for those reasons, it stays at C. Concentrated Fire allows you to target limbs and VATS, increasing your accuracy in VATS per shot and increasing your damage in VATS per shot. This perk is a must-have for anyone that has a VATS focused build. It works differently between automatic and non-auto weapons. The effect is 5 times stronger on non-auto weapons. The bonus damage from this perk is 1% per rank, making it largely negligible. This perk is an easy A tier, however, no questions about it. Without this perk, you really can't be a VATS focused build, as you won't be able to target enemies' weak spot. And that's something that gives you a substantial increase to your damage, making it a very valuable perk, and it's something that is going to be on your build no matter what. Crackshot grants your pistols increased range and damage when sighted. Being sighted means you're aiming down your sights, and this does not apply to using VATS. When you're using VATS, this will not activate, so you will not get the bonus range or accuracy. From the footage you can see I tested the range differences using these destructible camp items, which I thought was a pretty nice touch, and something I thought off the top of my head that I never thought I'd use, but here we are. I actually created a functioning firing range in this game. So you can see the increase in range is noticeable, but at the end of the day, are you really going to be noticing these kind of damage fall-offs? I mean, it's not that big of a difference, so just use it as you see fit. Exterminator grants your attacks the ability to ignore 75% of armor that any insect has. This perk gets the F of shame, as it's virtually useless. Insects are by far the weakest enemy type in Fallout 76. The strongest insect type would be a rat scorpion, which is where this perk would really shine. However, there isn't a need for this, as you're going to be fighting these scorpions and putting them down with relative ease as you get further into the game. And why would you waste 3 perk points on this? Not to mention the rarity of fighting insects in the game. Unless a region boss is added to the game that happens to be an insect, I don't see this perk getting much use. Don't use this, just stay away from it. Spend the 3 points elsewhere, trust me. Moving on to Fire in the Hole, this perk allows you to throw thrown weapons much further. This extends to like throwing knives and tomahawks, not just grenades, and it provides a visual arc for you. If you are making a build revolving around throwing weapons, I could give this an easy A tier, but for everyone else, I can't put it any higher than C tier. This perk doesn't need 3 ranks. Also, I feel like it could be looped into Grenadier, and no one would be the wiser. Fortune Finder gives you an audio cue when you're close to a cap stash. This is a C tier perk, as it drops off pretty substantially when you start to learn where these cap stashes spawn. They always spawn in the same spots, and as you're hopping servers, you know, you're always going to find them. You can only loot them a certain amount of times a day. I believe it's once a day. I don't know if you can reset that by, you know, looting enough items in the game world. But again, this is a C tier perk. You're not really going to use this. It's not that useful. Glow Sight at its maximum rank gives you plus 60% bonus damage to glowing enemies. Glowing enemies are not as rare as insects, and oftentimes show up in higher difficulty events like a Colossal Problem, Radiation Rumble, and Moonshine Jamboree. For these reasons, I'll place it in the B tier. If you have no points to spend elsewhere, you could put them here and comfortably keep it in your build. Green Thumb, much like Butcher's Bounty, grants the player an additional vegetable or floor when collecting an item. This is a perk that I don't have on a lot of the time, and I don't really have much to say about it. It just works like it says it works. It's great if you need to complete a daily challenge or if you're farming ingredients to craft something. So for those reasons, I'd put it in the C tier as well, just like Butcher's Bounty. It's not something you're going to have in your build actively, and if you do, I mean, it's only 1 point. Moving on to Grenadier, at max rank, this perk makes your explosions have twice the blast radius. From our examples on screen, you can see just how potent this effect is. It makes clearing rooms a much easier task. This perk gets an easy A tier. It works for all forms of explosives, not just grenades. This includes things like the explosive legendary effect, grenades, the cremator, Gauss weapons, the thirst sapper, flame bows, and much more. Ground Pounder at its maximum rank grants your automatic rifles a plus 30% to their reload speed and excellent hipfire accuracy. This is a perk that I personally run at rank 2, and I still feel the effects of the reload speed buff. Reload speed is a large part of determining your DPS, so any perk card that can avoid reloading or cutting down the time it takes to reload will be a massive increase to your damage. The hipfire part of this perk, while handy, isn't something that I personally take advantage of much at all, but if you find yourself in a situation where you're being ran down, it does help to just spray and pray. So for these reasons, I can put the perk in the A tier. Longshot is basically the rifle version of Crackshot. It increases the range of your rifles by 30% when sighted. And again, sighted means aiming down sights. So the range increase will not apply to those who are using VATS. I simulated the same test using these destructible camp items. As you see, the 30% on a rifle is substantially larger than it is on a pistol. But at the end of the day, this only applies to players that don't use VATS, and rifle builds excel at using VATS. So for those niche players out there that don't like to use VATS, this is going to be a perk you're probably going to want. Night Eyes grants you night vision while sneaking during the night. This perk works similarly to Cat Eyes from Fallout New Vegas. The night vision you are granted is a low light blue tint. I placed this perk in the D tier as it does not do anything meaningful to help your gameplay. The nighttime in Fallout 76 has about the same visibility as the daytime, making this perk kind of redundant. Night Person grants the player +3 intelligence and perception during the night. This perk can be handy for you if you're finding yourself grinding XP at night, but I can't realistically recommend this to anyone, so for those reasons the perk gets a C tier, as if you are farming XP, you can comfortably slot this in and kind of just forget about it and just go about your farming as normal. Pannapictagraphist provides you an audio cue when you are near a magazine. The usefulness of this perk will depend on your sound settings, so I give this perk a C tier, as depending on you having sound, and most people looking for magazines will already know where they spawn, so C tier it is. Percpti-bobble again provides you with an audio cue, but when you are near a bobblehead. This gets a C tier as well for the same reasons. It relies on you having sound. It works, but it's just not necessary. Again, most people who are farming bobbleheads will know where they spawn already, so it's just not that useful. Refractor at its max rank grants the player +40 energy resistance. There's not much to say about this perk. It simply provides you with a bonus DR at the cost of 3 points. I could put it in B tier. It's definitely a last resort pick if you have points to spend nowhere else, but it's not a perk I realistically see a lot of people using because it's just not necessary. Skeet Shooter improves your pellet spread and accuracy. If you are a shotgun player, this is a perk you're going to want to have. Ensuring all your pellets are hitting the target is important to doing the maximum amount of damage outside of VATS. This is another B tier perk, as it's dependent on you being a VATS player or not. If you are using VATS, all of your pellets will go into the same spot, kind of like a laser beam, so this perk's not necessary for those players, but outside of that, it's alright. Sniper grants you less reticle bounce and allows you to hold your breath for longer while aiming through your scope. For players that do not utilize VATS, reticle bounce can be annoying and it's hard to work around it, but with this perk it almost eliminates it completely, to where you don't have to hold your breath to have your scope be steady. Holding your breath will completely eliminate all bouncing, however, at the cost of AP. Sniper gets a C tier ranking. Unless you have AP problems, I don't see the need to run this perk, as you can just hold your breath for almost infinity without the perk on if you have enough AP. And most people who are building into rifles will have a lot of AP. So C tier it is. Lastly, to wrap things up, we have Tank Killer. This perk allows your rifles to ignore 36% of enemy armor and grants a 9% chance to stagger them. This perk works for commando and rifle-based weapons. This is easily an A tier perk. Using Tank Killer and Perforating Magazine together will grant you around 76% armor penetration. This can be further enhanced with an anti-arm legendary effect, which does stack beyond 100%. This is a must-have perk for all rifle users. Armor penetration plays a huge part in your damage output, especially on region bosses. If you are not running this perk, please fit it into your build. I do want to make a note that when I was testing Tank Killer, I ran into a problem where when I had the perk equipped, I was doing less damage than I did when I had it equipped. However, this bug slowly went away as I kept taking it on and off and fighting different enemy combatants, and then it eventually started working like it should. So there might be a bug going on with this perk that Bethesda should probably be aware of. But besides that, it's an A tier perk still. I'm considering that a bug as it's not intended. So that has been my perception, perk analysis, and tier list. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. I'll be putting out more of these perk breakdowns and tier lists in the near future, as well as other informational Fallout 76 content. If there's a specific perk tree you'd like to see me do next, let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.